and they were separate from the original meeting package. Okay? And we're trying to make up for the fact that we didn't have enough time to do this questioning, the deep dive, as I call it, before we had to file it with the government. And we had to file it as of Friday. So we got that done. Now let's do the deep dive. David.
So normally what happens once the external financials are published or put in front of council is to provide along with it the variance analysis. Well, we didn't have enough time at that time to do that for you. So what I provided you here is the and Shanda did the variance analysis, the high level perspective on the financial statements. We are financially healthy by any ratio that you've seen, that the public has seen. What I'm trying to say here is there was some question about the reserves and our debt level compared to similar sized municipalities. The external auditor did say we have better performance than other municipalities that he's seen. So I did do that perspective, and the reserves themselves, if I find it here now, the reserves themselves compared to 14 other similar sized municipalities, High Prairie has the third highest level of reserves. And as a percentage against tangible capital assets, High Prairie is the fourth highest percentage. Now, there's always an infrastructure gap. Municipalities all have infrastructure gaps, and we don't have the cash to do everything we can. And in particular, for a northern Alberta town, our construction period is short. So we can only do so much, so many projects in 1 year before winter sets in. But nonetheless, in the short run, we have the grants, we have the reserves that and of course the tax revenue that can generate transfers to reserves in order to do the projects we need to do in the short run. It's always mindful, as we are doing with the multi-rec facility, if we build a new one, is to start saving. So that's been identified as a gap that we need to fill, and that we're starting to prudently save money, build into the budget and our tax rate a certain amount to transfer to reserve. And if we have a surplus during the year, as we did for 2025, to take 50% of that surplus and put that into the recreation facility reserve. But overall, I provided with the variance analysis against the different line items, and it's important. That's been provided to council. It's important to do two kinds of an analysis. One with 2025 actual against the budget, because the budget is what you approved or the previous council approved. And then to also compare it to the previous year, this being the 2025 versus 2024, to see what the differences are, so that when we build a 2027 budget, we can keep improving on our estimates. So without going any further, if council's had a chance to review this, if you haven't had a chance, I can go through each of the variances.
Okay. Let's first deal with any specific questions that councillors might have made note of when they looked over the financial statements as we received them for the last week. I'll start up while you think about it. I had a question about the deferred revenue, and there was a singularly large project that contributed most of the deferred revenue. What was that, and why is it delayed?
The water treatment upgrade. And, we would have received a grant for a lot of that project. And so we don't if you don't go forward with that construction project in the year you thought you would, the project gets carried forward. And you've created, we will have already received the grant in 2025.
Well, I know what deferred revenue
Yeah.
is. trying to find out why was it delayed?
Because the construction of the project wasn't done. Like we haven't. We,
Push me back to then why wasn't the construction for the project? Like,
well, there's a
there must
delay.
have been
Yeah,
a start date and a end date conceived of.
that's right.
Something threw that off.
Something
What threw it off.
I think the engineering got delayed, the design or the environmental assessments too, and it creates delays. So that project goes into the future year and that creates deferred revenue because you've already received the grant.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? People have their sharp pencils out. Councilor Mindeline, questions?
No, because I've sat with the statements. Steve, that was probably along with, so I don't see a lot of change there's a lot of changes here from what it was, let's say, 10 years ago. Back in 2008 when I first came, but it's looking good overall. There's room for improvement, yes, and David's identified that also, for some of the planning of that. That's part of the on us also. When we go sit down for 2027, we've already sat down for 26, maybe than that now. And then also we have to sort of, I think for our own budgeting thing, we need to sort of keep track of when people.
Your mic, please.
Oh, sorry. We also have to keep in track for budgeting purposes that we should probably ask the public to come and talk to us before, the end of November, what they'd like to see, if they're asking for money for a specific project or for a specific event. Rather than after we've had the budget, then we got, let's say, $30,000 to offer out, and then somebody comes along and says, well, I need $10,000 to run this event from the town. So that's one of the things we have to be more careful with. And, but I think overall, I'm okay with the statements. I've gone through them. No questions.
I think that's an interesting suggestion that we ask everyone to come to a sort of a budget open house. Because right now, you're right. And remember the last time I had a mini rant on this was that we were being slowly nickeled and dimed by just a constant stream of people wanting 500 for this and 1,000 for that. And, maybe there is a more orderly way that we'll always have late requests. I mean, there'll always be late requests, but to get a handle on some of this stuff. Councillor Shunter, you usually got a sharp pencil. Any of yours?
No, I dug through and I am happy with it. I'll take the opportunity to point out that we still don't have the 2026 operating budgets posted on the website for the public to see. And this 2025 trends that you've prepared for us, David, that should be posted alongside it on the website so that the public can see all this. The problem that I always hear and what always gets communicated to me is there's all this data, but it's buried in agenda packages and the public doesn't know where to find it, right? It should be posted on the finance tab on the website. Somebody has a question about the finances, they don't have to go back to the May 5th committee of the whole meeting and scroll to page 55 in the agenda package. They go to the finance tab on the website and they find their answer, right? In the interest of open, honest communication, I still think that's the way to do it. At the last meeting, I said I was struggling to wrap my head around it, and I'm still struggling to wrap my head around it. Why we base the health of our reserve fund based on a percentage of expenditures and not on upcoming capital projects, because the reserve funds capital projects, and I just struggle to understand why we define the health of the reserve fund based on what we spent last year and not what we're planning to spend in the next 3 years. But if that's the industry standard, then that's the standard. But
yeah, these are municipal right across the country. These ratios in particular, I retrieved from Nova Scotia. but other provinces have very similar, and that's the denominator, if you will, total expenses compared to your reserves. That's what's out there. Your point's well taken. I think we will. It's a good idea to post what's been provided here, the variance analysis, and even the higher level perspectives, just so that the public can feel more comfortable. And we'll do the same thing when we do the next operating budget too, and capital budget. So your point's well taken that way.
I don't know if you missed it, but he wanted to know why the current budget isn't up. Is that
Yeah,
the one?
the 2026 operating budget,
Yeah.
capital budget, we've approved
Mhm.
both of them, at least to some extent, but
Yeah,
And
we
then
should
there's-
put it on.
yeah,
I
it
will.
should be.
I'll put it on there.
Yeah, we approved the capital soon after we were elected. And then early this year, we approved the operating. Officially, of course, we haven't had all of the mill rate data attached yet. But the core of it is what we approved.
Are we still on the interim operating budget? I forget.
Well, the interim is what we had approved without the tax assessments
Yes.
changing things.
Yeah.
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 Okay, good points. Counselor Temple? Counselor Martinson?
Over the last couple of weeks here, I've been approached by people and just talking with them, and they always bring up the question on how our neighbors have increased their taxes on their residents. Say like the town of Valley View, town of McLennan. So, and one number I was throwing at was a 15% increase in the town of Valley View. So I said, we sound like we're doing something right here, and
Actually, 15% is probably accurate. Wait till that education 12% bites.
and the RCMP.
And last year, what I did for the previous council was to compare the tax revenue increases to other municipalities, the same municipalities that I've compared that you've seen here. But because it's good to know, and it helps. We want the public to know that they are not being overtaxed. The surplus that we did generate, it's a small surplus as a percentage of the total budget. I'm always concerned when I see, like 3 years ago, there's a $1.9 million surplus. That's saying, now there is coming out of COVID and everything, that was exceptional, and there's reasons for it. But in a normal year, if you had something like that for the kind of budget we have, that's where a resident could say, you're overtaxing us, or you're transferring too much to reserves.
Yeah.
Because unless we have a plan like we do now for the recreation facility, if we do run a large surplus, then the public will understand that half of that surplus will go to a reserve for a good reason. And but if you don't have a plan, then once I retire and I see that from a council, I might come in and say, you're overtaxing us. So I could be a dangerous former CAO.
Let's cut that conversation short and not entice the two ex-CAOs. Let's not start a club.
It does look like we're financially sound though, so it's a good report, yeah.
Councilor Minderline, you were okay? Councilor Pert? I have some comments, but not necessarily about the financial statements themselves. I think in the past, we decided that the surplus, that is revenue over expenses for the water system, would go into the water reserve, and for gas would go into the gas reserve, those things, right? I remember us having a conversation about that. In the past, those reserves have been handled, let's say, differently. They hadn't been allocated specifically, right?
Right, there's, what I've discovered is that there is some surplus from water sewer cost centers that go into general operating. That's not a usual practice of a municipality. And it's something I've asked that I'd like to slowly whittle back so it's 100% stays within
I
utilities.
thought we had already decided that it would be strictly allocated back to the services. Hadn't we?
Yeah, so anyway, we will be doing that in the next budget, so.
Because it brings me then to, particularly with the multiplex hanging over us, that all our future budgetary savings, let's call it, we're going to dedicate that to the multiplex. Also, at some point, and you know, we've had this information in the past, but we need to start lining up the reserves that we're building for the multiplex against the current payments we're making on debentures and things like that. So we know when, for instance, Cornerstone is gone, and it's gone in just 2 years, I think. Yeah. And there's a couple others that the payments that'll be gone, and that will open up more room for us in the budget as well, because we need to sort of put the little target on the wall. For now, it can say 25 million, and then we got to do a little bit of plotting of how we get to that target. You know, that dart isn't going to get there by itself. Councilman Miller.
In the case of Cornerstone, probably some of the others, when we borrowed that money, we then also raised taxes from the Cornerstone development. We still get that money annually for the taxes to pay the debit off. So when that loan's paid off, those payments will no longer come in. So that would be one that would be should be self-balancing. There should be nothing extra available. It's only those residents.
I don't know whether this is the first I hear that there were special.
There was a debenture for that specifically raised in 2008.
Yeah,
I think
the
it was.
debenture was raised, but it was based on
The taxpayer.
specific taxes for that area.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a special payment of taxes. So they have a tube tax rate. They have that. And then they also have the one for the debenture.
Okay.
And then they have the option to pay out what they owe for that property when they
Good.
buy
That's the
it.
kind of information
Yeah.
all of us need
And
to.
so we should need to get that every time one
Yeah.
comes up and see where we get that money from and what was it being used
But-
to.
Yeah, overall,
funding it.
we need to know
Yeah,
how much
Exactly.
leeway these payments, as they drop off the sheet, these payments give us. Any other questions or comments about the financial statements? Customarily, we would have had a closed session with the auditor. Okay? And the auditors usually ask, quite plainly, do you have any reason to believe that anything wrong is going on? And it's usually a closed session. We didn't have that opportunity. And I imagine that next year we'll have more time.
And they'll also point out in that closed session if there's any recommendation, if they've seen anything, any procedure that might contravene generally accepted accounting practices.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, any other questions on the financial statements? Are you satisfied? Okay. Excellent. Oh, no, I've lost there we are. Okay, 5.4, notice of motion. Councilor Minna.
Okay, I've been requested for this, both as a member of the Peace Library Board and our own library. They've approached me to approach council to get a motion from council regarding Bill 28. This has to do with the libraries, how they handle documents or letters and whatever else. So I will be bringing what they've given me as a suggested wording for that. It's got all the whereas and what fors and whatever they've had to do by the lawyers, but to bring that to the next council meeting, get council's approval to sign that and pass it on to the province.
I have only one concern about, everybody's talking about, we need to respond to Bill 28. Bill 28 isn't out of the house yet. It isn't even proclaimed yet. Often you'll see some fiddling with it even between the vote and proclamation. So be sure that this isn't premature.
No, this is to try and get that information in front of the politicians when they're making the decision to take a look and say, is everybody in agreement with this? Well, that makes any difference sometimes anyways, but
House is rising on the 11th. That's the day before you're going to get your notice of motion in. So it's not going to influence the current debate on Bill 28.
it's just that I've been requested to bring this to council. If council doesn't want to do
Okay,
it, then that's
not a
fine.
problem. It's just that I'm just pointing out, I believe House is rising on the 11th or 12th. I could be wrong. I don't follow it as closely as I used to. Okay, so that's coming on Tuesday? Excellent. Ah, that's why she stayed around. Oh, I thought it was because we were such great people. 5.5 is J.C. Park. So we got to talk a little more about the problems you're trying to palm off on us. Go ahead.
So last council, when we had issues last year, so the history of the park, a lot of trees started falling on their own during sunny, warm days. So it was brought to our attention. We had an arborist go out there who said a lot of those trees were at their end of life. They were planted, they're done, they are no longer stable. He pointed out multiple trees saying they've already, he's seen things I couldn't see, but he also pointed out many that had cracks in them. And the way they grew, they were lopsided. So, last council, when I went before them, had wanted it done for free. Obviously, that's impossible. So we had West Fraser come in and move the trees for us. We had Tolko come out and fall the trees. So that's all they would commit to, as they were doing it as a goodwill to the town of High Prairie. So now we're left with a mess. And currently, we have Public Works Department helping us. However, they have to move on to potholes and cleaning up and all the work they need to get done as a Public Works Department. There's only 7 of them. Recreation team's been out there. However, we don't have the equipment, the tools, or the staff to be out there tackling what needs to be done. We don't have bobcats. We don't even have a truck. So for us to do it by hand, we'll be here for years. So my request to council is I need some financial support to get J.C. Park cleaned up. I don't know if anyone's been out there recently. I sent you a few photos. However, these photos do not do it justice once you're out there and actually looking around.
Okay, we'll start with the deputy mayor.
Okay, I was out there and it's a mess. So Mike asked me what I figured. So I told him what we have to do is get a backhoe with it's called a finger rake and a thumb to gather that all up. And then the following day, come in with trucks and haul the branches away. And because of their bulk, wherever we're gonna haul them to, we're gonna have a backhoe at that end, clean out the trucks. Otherwise, because you can't haul without an end gate. So you have to have an end gate on. So it makes it just won't slide out. So we'll have a backhoe back there at the other end, cleaning it out and loading it here. And I'm thinking it'll be 2 or 3 days and it would be cleaned up. And I think Mike was saying he's got 4 town trucks and he'd hire 2 or 3 more trucks at $140 an hour. And the backhoe would be 190, I think, or 189 an hour. So it's not bad if it's only going to be 3-4 days.
Any councilors want to add to the deputy mayor's analysis? Councilor Minderheim?
Yeah, with that, this is one where, again, with our budget, we have the budget, it gets passed, and then we get things that come back to us. And it's not just for the people in town, it's also our staff. And I understand it sometimes like this, but that should have been in the budget when we seen it last year, knowing that this had to be done. My question then is, okay, you've come for an ask, what is the solution? And some of that is work, but where's the money gonna come from?
It'll
That's
come
the
from
question I have.
unrestricted.
Unrestricted, okay.
Unrestricted surplus.
Any other question? Is that it? Your concern? Any quick? Counselor Martinson?
So what happens? Why couldn't we stack it in one pile out there and torch it in the wintertime? That'd be a lot cheaper than hiring trucks and
That would be the easiest. The fire chief,
Sorry, I can't hear
Decline.
you.
sorry, that was a request and the fire chief declined.
I'll talk to the fire chief. I'm not talking about burning it this summer. But
I was hoping to do it in the winter.
Yeah.
While they were doing it and they declined, and it's not my department to
he declined what?
going out there and burning the pile. Because we would need safety measures in place. We'd need staff. And
Well, your staff can go burn it in the wintertime. It's not a,
we'd have to get approval from the fire chief.
He's going to talk to the
I'll talk to the fire chief.
Counselor Temple? Counselor Shunder?
What's the plan after it's cleaned up? Are you coming back for more money to plant more trees?
No, there's a Government of Canada grant for trees. So my goal would be to get that grant because you have to apply the year before. Would be to get that grant and then have the schools, I've discussed with the schools as a credit, they could come out and help plant trees in the springtime and get that going. This project was thrown at me in the spring last year with a zero budget and very little understanding that recreation department does not have the capacity to handle this kind of a project. We don't have a vehicle, we don't have any tools. So for them to go into JC Park with the assumption that we'll just take care of it, that's what's led us to today, is a mess that needs to be cleaned up, that we didn't know how bad it was until the snow melted. Both these crews came in, which was wonderful. They did us a huge favor. However, they did them in blizzards when visibility was next to nothing. So I was not able to be out there to assess what's going on, to assist them, trying to clear it. Unfortunately, it's now panned out to this. I've contacted numerous Alberta Parks, Northern Country Fair. I've gone to Shaw's, Delorme's. I've asked West Fraser, Toco. No one wants it. No one wants the wood. And that was the big thing with previous council. They thought tearing it down, they would have people lined up with their trucks ready to go to take it. And that has not been the case. Nobody wants it because it's poplar wood rather than birch.
Go ahead.
Okay, burning is a good, really good idea. But you know how long it will smolder and the smell? And I think there's gonna be neighbors around that area not gonna enjoy that. And then-
Poplar smell?
Yeah. And then for tree planting, I don't know if you ever seen what happens when you chop a tree down, there's 10,000 other little trees start coming up. You won't have to grow, you won't have to plant anything. I think what you'll have to do is go around there and start, cut out the ones that you don't want and the ones that you want to save.
Counselor Martinson, were you gonna make a comment? I seem to remember somebody doing a fire safety analysis or survey of the town, and that one of their conclusions was that we had too many trees in JC Park. Does anybody else remember that? We had too many trees. I'm not responding to your need for having the branches hauled away. I'm responding to your proposal to plant more trees. Who gave us that analysis? Does anybody remember?
I-
I remember the analysis.
It's just loading. I'll have an answer for you in a second.
Good. Yeah, it was somebody like that and told us we had too many trees there.
Yeah. Palisade Consulting Wildfire Mitigation Strategy.
Yeah.
Is that it, Counselor Shunder?
How do you spell J.C. Park?
J-A-C-E-E.
How long you lived here?
I'd also ask how long he's gone to school, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, J.C. Park was flagged as a red zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a point of entry for a fire
Yes.
into town. I'm just trying to sort of remind us of that before we get all gung ho about planting a whole bunch more trees, that we've been soundly advised not to do that. Counselor Mendeley.
And seeing that we have this report in our pocket, it may be something to approach Minister Lowen. This is a Fire Smart option and see, maybe we can clean it up somehow through Fire Smart.
Fire
That-
Smart does come in each year.
Pardon me?
Fire Smart does come in each spring and clears debris, but they won't take down trees.
Depends
The trees
on the
are already
program.
down.
Yeah.
No, you were saying if we'd have Fire Smart come in?
Well, not necessarily come in. We could approach them for money to do the project ourselves even. Because I've done that with other communities in the north. And where we had a project every winter where we'd send 6 guys out, cut wood, they'd cut it down to 4-foot sections, they'd burn the slash. And, but it's maybe something there. If it's a Fire Smart, if it's identified as a point of entry, it might be a thought. Rather than rushing into a quick thing to spend money.
So Fire
Counselor-
Smart does come in each spring and they've already been there to take down brush and all the extras.
Counselor Martinson.
Just wondered, CM, have you contacted forestry? And they wouldn't do nothing for you? Not to want it to help you clean it up. Yeah. Okay.
I think
Okay, we
this,
can't make any, we're in committee of the whole. We're not making any decisions, but we've got to put all of this into enough of a box for her to come to council 1 week from today with a proposal that we're prepared to fund out of non-restricted. So where are we? We've got a proposal to hire the equipment and get it done in 3-4 days. We got a proposal to gather it together and burn it. We got a proposal, don't do anything until we find out what Fire Smart is able to do for us. Where are we on this? We're still heading in 3 or 4 different directions.
and don't forget that to provide some perspective on this, is that West Fraser and Tolko have done a lot of this work for free. So this was a huge project. We were required because a tree or two had fallen on the baseball field and stuff, or on the park itself. But, you know, even if we spend money now, and Councillor Persky says it's, you know, over 3-4 days, it won't be that expensive. Yet the majority of the work has been done for free. So, you know, debating whether we should spend any money, like we're getting complaints now. And I've walked through there over the last couple of weekends, and yeah, you know, the people that walk their dogs, they're going to start complaining big time. They can't use the full trail to go around. So I think we just need to get this cleaned up. And that's, when we write the RFD, it will be to clean it up, pay the contractors to come in and with whatever equipment and go forward and
Okay,
get
you
this
had a
done.
fair amount of discussion now. Come back to us 1 week from tonight with a request for decision, okay?
Can I add one last comment?
Pardon?
Can I ask can I add one last comment?
Okay,
JC Park's a beautiful park.
sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, JC Park is a beautiful park. It's our only green space in High Prairie. So this is where people go to play soccer, baseball, walk their dogs. It's got a great trail, so a lot of people use their strollers there because it's an easy sidewalk. It is a well thought out neighborhood in the sense of it's a one-stop shop. And it's a selling feature in High Prairie. When we boast about High Prairie, JC Park is always in the mix. It's a space where people can go, have picnics, play. You can't do that anywhere else in High Prairie. It's a natural setting. It's beautiful, and I don't want to see it be destroyed, waiting for repairs. I just think it's been underfunded for many, many, many years.
We're not voting tonight, so you don't need to be impassioned. That we'll accept that as a rehearsal for next Tuesday. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, comments about any topic? Hearing none and the agenda being complete, I declare the meeting adjourned at 7:22.